You can hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, okay, good morning, everybody. It's talking on about design patterns in PHP. The overview of the presentation is discussing what is software design pattern, types of software design pattern, and the main focus is design pattern in PHP. Then one of design pattern is MVC, so we'll be looking at the MVC design pattern, which is used very well in PHP. So I'm talking about, we'll be looking at an example of using the MVC design pattern or working with the MVC design pattern in PHP or using PHP. So what is the software design pattern? Okay, so design patterns are elegant solutions to repeating problems in software design. That is, when programmers try or do things, write code, they come up with solutions. That is, randomly come up with solutions. And so when they have solutions to a specific problem, it becomes a pattern. And so rather than always creating a solution, so they came up with a pattern that everybody can follow. So not necessarily like copying the code, but just having a pattern that we can work with. Now, design patterns represent the best practices used by experienced object-oriented software developers. Design patterns are solutions to general problems that software developers face during software development. So these solutions were obtained by trial and error by numerous software developers over a quite some short period of time. Now, types of design patterns. Now, according to GOF, which is Django 4, they wrote a book and they came up with like standard, not as if that's the limit, but according to them, we have 23 design patterns. We have more than that today. We have different design patterns, numerous, but the standard that programmers follow is this Django 4, which is GOF. We have 23 design patterns. Now they can be categorized into three. So the whole 23 design patterns can be categorized into three, which are we have the creational patterns, we have the structural patterns, and we have the behavioral patterns. So the creational patterns. Now, design pattern is these design patterns are basically based on object-oriented programming, that is based on objects. So I don't know if I'm still on. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. So these design patterns provide a way to create object that is creational while hiding creation logic. So rather than instantiating objects directly using new operator, this gives gives the program more flexibility in deciding which object needs to be created for a given use case. So creational patterns are used in object creation mechanisms to create objects that can be decoupled from the system that implemented them. Structural patterns. These design patterns concern class and object composition. Concept of inheritance is used to compose interfaces and define ways to compose objects to obtain functionality. So structural patterns just basically create or mix the ways of creating or identifying relationships between objects or entities in the programming or the code. Now, behavioral patterns, these design patterns are really concerned with communication between objects. So they are used to manage relationship, responsibilities, and algorithms between objects. Now, so now the design pattern in PHP, because PHP is an object-oriented programming language. So PHP can, or the 23 patterns can be used in PHP as that is. The 23 patterns are stated by GOF. Luckily, the previous presenter explained microservice architecture, which also can be referred to as a design pattern, but it's not under this GOF. So some of the commonly used patterns in PHP. We have the factory pattern, we have the singleton design pattern, we have strategy design pattern, we have the front controller design pattern, we have the MVC design pattern. So we have basically we have 23 of them, and they can be used, but these are the commonly used ones in PHP when you write PHP. And when you look at PHP frameworks, most of the pattern they use MVC, and that's what I'm talking about, the MVC design pattern. So MVC design pattern. Now, PHP MVC is an application design pattern that separates the application data and the business logic, the model, from the presentation view. So we have MVC. MVC stands for model, view, and controller. So the model, it shows that that's a view. We have the controller, that is the controller controls what the model outputs to the view. So the model is concerned with the database. The controller is like a control, it's like a steering wheel, but the view is what you're seeing when you're driving a car, something like that. So now the controller mediates between the model and the view. Now think of MVC design pattern as a car and a driver. The car has the windscreen, the view, which the driver controls or uses to monitor traffic ahead. And then speed or brake, which is the model. Okay, so that's a simple explanation of what the MVC design pattern. So we're looking at an example of an MVC example code. Okay, that was created using MVC in PHP. So we're going to be creating a PHP content management system based on MVC design pattern, and this is the file structure of the MVC application. Now we have different, we have the config controllers, but the things that you should take note of the files are the controller, the model, and the view. Right. So every other thing, we'll explain more onto that. So in the file, we have the config. This folder contains all app configuration levels. So this is where all the configuration, especially the connection between your database, the controller file contains the controller files, that is where that will define action for the UI, that's for the view. Or CSS or CSS files, image or image files, or third-party files include JS or JavaScript files, view or view files or UI files, index the main root file where app will start to render. Now, the following files we will create for this example, we will create the index, the main root file, we will create the base controller, the PHP file, this is the main base controller. Will be extended by all chat controllers. We will create page controller PHP. We will create model PHP. We will create page PHP. We will create our view, our page and index. We will create header. Right now, so the first step is to create the index of PHP file. So this has a link that calls to the action of page info. So once you click on this link, it takes you to, it connects to the action that will be in the page controller. Then step 2, it will create the base controller. So this file contains all methods that we use in controller files. And this file keep all common controller methods in your PHP app. Then step 3, we'll create our module controller, our page controller. So we have in this write-up in this code here, what it does is that it defines the switch method which will render an action. Right? So you look at the action, it's going to render this action when it is called upon from that first file that we created. So once that link is clicked on, it will call on this page from the controller. The controller determines what happens. So it takes this page and gets page info, right? And so the get page info will render page/index of PHP view file to the view. So this is what the viewers will see, or what you would see. So this is basically just an example code. Then next thing we'll do, we'll create a base model class. So this class contains a method which is common in all model class. Okay, for example, the insert data and save data. So we'll extend above the base model class and implement insert data, save data method into the extended models and page of PHP model class. Step 5, we'll create our model file, which will extend above the model. So as you can see above code, the insert data and insert data method have been implemented in the model. Now, step 6, we'll call the model method in the controller file. Step 7, we'll create the config file, which as explained connects the database with the application. So this is the settings for the database. So here we're using MySQL, so that's why we're using it. So this is the code for the database, the config file. The next thing, and then the next thing to do is that we'll create. Finally, we'll create the view header, the view/header.php in the view folder. This file contains the HTML and JavaScript related functionality, which is the header file, the things that you need to have, your JavaScript, your CSS, and everything. And lastly, we'll create our view file in the view folder. So this file contains the HTML. So if you call in from the beginning, it calls in the header, then what we want to reveal to what the viewer or the user will see. So this is the view file. And so this is basically explains an example using the MVC. So where it is separated. So normally before, either you are using object, you're not using object, you're using procedure or functional programming, which would include all of these processes in one single code. So this system makes it easy for you to say, yes, I can use this to create different, solve different problems using the same pattern without using a standard pattern. So without having to create your own pattern or make your code very bulky or confusing. So those are the reasons why we use. So this is an example of the model view and controller design pattern, software design pattern. So in conclusion, now design pattern provides a general reusable solution for the common problems that occur in software design. Design pattern typically shows relationships and interaction between classes and objects. The idea is to speed up development process by providing well-tested, proven development and design paradigms. So that is to say that, in conclusion, that's to say that design pattern, goal of design pattern is to provide a proven that it's an acceptable standard or paradigm of creating software and to make it faster. So design patterns are programming language independent strategies for solving common problems. That means the design pattern represents an idea, not a particular implementation. So it is not like a copy and paste, like you just copy this pattern. No, it just represents an idea of how to solve this problem. So by using design patterns, you can make your code more flexible, usable, and maintainable. So thank you for listening, and do you have any questions?